You're listening to Hashtag No Filter with Zack Peter. That's me, your naturally platinum blonde pop culture connoisseur. I'm the reality TV junkie, self-improvement addict, and host with only the hottest tea spilled fresh weekly. For more hot takes, go and give me a follow at Just Plain Zack. I always keep it funny and I always keep it cute. And if you're like me and you want to stay up to date with the latest reality tea, just go and give us a follow at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram, or you can always join our private Facebook group. The link is in the description below. Snag some fizzy housewives inspired rosé for yourself, packing a punch at 14% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar. I designed it with some of our favorite, most iconic housewives moments in mind. So there are 5 fun designs from Potomac, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, and Beverly Hills. My personal favorite has been I Stole Kim's Goddamn House, but today I'm sipping on some I'm Ready to Mention It All, inspired by Bethany and Ramona from Real Housewives of New York. Be sure to grab some of the Drag Me cans. Those are inspired by Potomac. The finale's coming up, the reunion's coming up, and those are limited editions. So as soon as those sell out, they're almost sold out. So please help me sell out so I can make that announcement and not feel like a total business failure in my life. Thank you guys so much for supporting the wine. You can order it at nofilterwine.com. Go to nofilterwine.com. Today's guest is here to spill some major legal tea, from Lisa Rinna's copyright lawsuit to the latest filings against Erika Jayne. She's got a pop-in TikTok, and she's here to pop off with me. Please welcome Heather the lawyer.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So excited to chat with you. I love your TikToks. I started watching them like a few weeks ago before we even connected. And I remember putting in my head under all of the bleach being like, I need to like make a mental note of having Heather on the show because she has such good hot takes that she gives, not just within the Bravo world, but just within the pop culture world. You've talked Britney, everything that everybody has questions about. You're one of the people on TikTok that's just answering, breaking it down in layman's terms for us to understand.
It's literally all I do on TikTok. I just sit at my desk where I do my work and I'm like, oh, you have a question? Great, let me answer it.
Have there been, what's the reaction been from people? Because I know for me, and I can take the heat because I'm not a real lawyer, which is why I joke that I'm like Elle Woods meets Kim Kardashian without the law degree. Do people come at you for not knowing what you're talking about, or being like, you don't know, Erika Jayne's guilty. I watched Beverly Hills for 6 years and you don't know anything, Heather, even though you're a lawyer and I live in my mom's basement?
So much so my cat's playing with a toy over here. But I got a couple requests to talk about the Erika Jayne, Erika Girardi stuff when I was on vacation, ironically, in LA. And so I made a couple videos. I just come back to the hotel room from the gym and was like, I guess I can talk about it. And the comments went wild. A lot of people were like, do you even know her? And why would you talk about her? And I'm like, I could have sworn she was on a reality TV show. And the premise was to talk about her. I feel like that was known, but I will say that is the most hot and cold group that I have found on my TikTok is she needs to rot in jail, even though there's no pending criminal charges, or she is we have to, presume she's innocent again, even though criminal charges aren't pending.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And repeat that for the bitches in the back. Criminal charges aren't pending. They're not even, there's nothing even in motion against her criminally.
No. So jail time isn't even on the table for anything that's being discussed right now for Erika Jayne. There's a federal investigation for Tom Girardi, but it's so far removed. And just a quick note. So I practice personal injury law in California. And I would, when I started talking about this randomly, when I go on live, because that's the same type of law that Tom Girardi practiced.
Right.
So I'd randomly, as my husband would walk by, say, hey, do you know how much money I have in my client trust account? No, I have no idea. I'm like, that theoretically should have been the difference between Tom Girardi and Erika Girardi.
Which is so wild to me. But it's funny because it's you have personal experience with it. I'm, Googling all of this and researching all of it and talking to a bunch of different legal analysts and commentators and lawyers trying to make sense of it all. And from what I found, it's not I'm not saying she's, the most moral person. I'm not saying that she's an upstanding citizen. But when it comes to the scope of the law, she isn't being charged with anything and also didn't have a fiduciary responsibility to Tom's clients, nor did she need to know what was going on within the finances of Girardi Keese.
Nor should she have.
Exactly.
Nor should she have. I've also seen a lot of comments saying that this one particularly gets me. She should have known because lawyers can't possibly make that amount of money to be able to afford such a lavish lifestyle. I hard disagree.
Well, you also
I know
look
a lot
at
of lawyers who make a lot of money. I'm not one of them, but I know them.
No, but you look at the lawsuits that he was winning, and they were multi-million-dollar lawsuits annually. So it wasn't hard for people, and he had so many people in his pocket that were giving him awards and he was buying all these covers on magazines that to the outside public, who would have questioned that? He's on the cover of magazines, he's getting awards, he knows judges, he's meeting with, the governor and, senior politicians that like you would think, oh, maybe he does got it like that.
Right. And so one of the organizations that he's actually involved with, I have been involved with in the past, and it's Consumer Attorneys of California, and it's basically California's personal injury attorneys. There's a number of them. You're talking about 30 to 45% in attorney's fees for multi-million-dollar lawsuits. And you've got how many attorneys that work within his firm? A ton. So you're dealing with that on a monthly, yearly basis. It's very easy to accumulate wealth. And they don't pay their bottom tier attorneys as much, so they're getting more of a percentage of those cases too, I'm sure.
Right. Because for me, I'm like, I need to see them do a forensic accounting of the Girardi Keese books. I need to see, because as of right now, the general assumption is she received $25 million of stolen money, which is yes and no. Like when you break it all down, it's like she didn't receive the money. It was expenses paid on her behalf, bills that she was sending to her husband. He was paying for the money with Girardi Keese money. And we're now realizing that there were many clients that didn't receive or that are claiming that they didn't receive their settlements. But you also have to factor in, well, what was the settlement total? What was the percentage that was owed to the client? What was the percentage that Girardi Keese was supposed to be taking? Some of these clients he was convincing to invest their money on their behalf.
That is where I think the jump for like duties I would never do that with my clients. That's a huge red flag to me. But to your point, with regard to the payment, if Erika is just sending her bills to Girardi and Keese, if the American Express bill just gets automatically sent to Girardi and Keese, because that's where their accountant is, and their accountant does their personal and business finances. It's a very easy leap to make then that accountant goes, well, Girardi and Keese has the money and I'm going to put it as a loan on Girardi and Keese books. Theoretically, my personal gut tells me likely for tax income purposes, because if it's a loan, you're not taking it as income, you're not paying taxes on it. And Erika would have never known. That doesn't mean that she didn't benefit from it. Right. And what I like to remind my followers is legality is not always morality. Those two are not the same thing. What's right isn't always what's legal. What's legal isn't always what's right.
And not only that, but things like this, I don't think people realize how common it is to cheat on your taxes with the books like this,
Or use very, intentioned for the person who's using them, right? The tax laws are what they are for a reason, right? They know the loopholes that you and I don't know.
Right.
They know to open up an LLC and put income over there because it's taxed differently than if they were going to take it. I mean, yeah. And I have practiced business law in the past, so I know some of what goes on in that. And it's way more common than people realize.
Yeah, that like for him to be writing these off as loans, like people in that world to be like, oh, that's actually kind of smart because it is taxed differently. And, you have all of these different loopholes that's how you have people like, Elon Musk who doesn't pay who pays very little in taxes. It's like they find loopholes in order to do it, so part of it is like, don't hate the player, hate the game, and go to practice and learn more about the game. And then you'll be able to climb that ladder as well. That's not saying that it's right, but that's the world that we live in. I wake up every day in the
AOC and try to change it or something, I guess.
Yeah, right. So that's a little bit about the Girardi case. I actually have one more question about that. Is it common for lawyers, being that you were kind of in a position that Tom Girardi was in practicing the same type of law, Is it common for lawyers to make donations to the California State Bar on an annual basis?
There's a line item that allows us to donate to the California State Bar on our dues payment. I'll have to look at it because it's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily donate money to the California Bar Association. I don't know of anybody who donates to the California Bar Association regularly. I will say I try not to talk about judges, California Bar Association, and courts, just because I still am a practicing attorney in California,
Right.
but I don't know that that's common. I have not heard that it is.
Okay. Just because that was like one of the other red flags that I saw with Tom Girardi. And I mean, that situation is just, it's so messy. But again, I'm like, I want to see a forensic accounting of the books, only because I'm like, you have to cross every T and dot every I so that the law can stick. Because then you have other cases. You have instances like Bill Cosby, who was able to walk because of, technicalities or issues with the case, where when you rush a case or things get kind of muddy and you are like, oh, this is a slam dunk, and you overshoot the mark, then people end up getting away with it. And that's what I don't want to happen, because of the victims that, of these former clients that deserve the justice that I hope they see soon, one day.
Yeah, I have doubts on that too, but we'll see.
Okay, well, I want to talk about the Jay Edelson stuff, but first I want to get into the Lisa Rinna stuff, because this was a big case last week. It was in the LA Times. So she's currently involved in a lawsuit with Backgrid USA Inc., who's representing a paparazzi that took some photos of Lisa Rinna and her daughters. I believe they were walking out in Los Angeles. They were just walking down the street. They had their masks on. Seemingly not interested
innocuous.
Yeah, totally innocuous. These photos, I believe, were then reposted or posted onto her Instagram account. I believe it was done in jest. It was like a lighthearted post that she made on her Instagram account. The paparazzi then went to proceed with suing her, I believe, for over $1 million in damages for posting the photos, because she didn't have the proper permission to post the photos, and the paparazzi is the copyright owner of those photos.
Correct.
What is your take, just baseline general take on the case itself?
So it's funny, because what they're actually suing her for, they've alleged about $1.2 million.
Right.
Which is $150,000 per photo.
Because the only way photos, right? There were 8
there's
photos.
8, 8 photos. The only way they get to 1.2 million is if she knew that these were copyrighted images and then intentionally posted them. I think that part is going to be hard to prove, especially like what you're saying, they're innocuous. Yeah. These are just photos of her and her daughters. I understand that a couple of them, I didn't see the photos themselves, but she describes them in the LA Times article as like they were masked. So it's not like these were going to be front page photos. This isn't Britney circa 2008.
Right.
This is Lisa Rinna in the middle of a pandemic with her daughters with masks on.
Right. Something
that she would normally have posted, I assume, probably on her Instagram. And it wasn't promoting anything, I don't think. So it's not like she truly made funds from this that they then lost out on.
Right. And I believe their argument is that the reason they sue is because when a celebrity posts a photo on their Instagram, that photo is then less likely to be used by an Us Weekly or a People magazine, who would typically pay for that photo, and then the photographer would earn money off of it.
Right. So this actually happens more often than people think too.
Oh, all the time. It's a cash
and I don't think
grab.
people realize that. I was a part of an organization, and somebody in our organization used a photo that they found off of Google, but it was actually a copyright image, and they tried to sue us for nominal, I think like $5,000. And I think Lisa Rinna realizes, because she said in the LA Times article that I was ready to pay something.
Right.
But $1.2 million, I'll pay you for your work, and probably something that would be similar to what they would have gotten for one of those photos if they were to sell it to people.
Because something like that would be like $150, maybe $500 per photo.
Right. And
That's
she's probably willing to pay a little bit more than that, because now she has to get attorneys involved. So you always factor that into settling. But what it feels like Backgrid is doing to me is making an example. This person's already in hot water. She's already not in favor with the public, generally, from what I can see.
Right.
Now, let's take the full Monty. And I just don't see how they get to the 1.2 and proving that she willfully, I knew that all of these images were copyrighted, and I posted them anyway to promote my brand, and therefore I owe you 1.2 million.
Well, it's interesting because you see so many other celebrities get dragged into this. It happened with Khloe Kardashian. She posted something, I believe, on Instagram or Twitter, and then the paparazzi sued her, and she had to settle out of court. Same thing with Kim Kardashian. I believe Kim ended up just hiring her own paparazzi to follow so that she could use those photos that she at least would then own the copyright to, because she's paying the paparazzi to take those photos of her, because obviously she was doing, photo shoots for Yeezy, or she was promoting Yeezy, she was promoting Skims. She had things that she wanted to promote, and she wanted to repost some of those images, so she just hired her own photographer. Khloe now buys those photos herself. I believe Gigi Hadid was also involved in a copyright suit. She won hers, though, because the photographer that was trying to sue her never actually filed for copyright, but was still trying to make that claim against her. So it does seem like this is part of the way they're making money, because it doesn't seem like paparazzi are making money the way that they used to back in 2008, where tabloid scandal was what it was.
And when social media was not what it was, right? When celebrities didn't have the direct access to their fans that they do now. Now Lisa Rinna can post any number of pictures that she wants to, or Gigi Hadid or Khloe Kardashian, directly to Instagram, and they're cutting out the middleman of the photographer. Right. So agreed. I feel like this statute specifically just hasn't evolved as quickly as society has.
Which is what the intention I got in reading the interview Lisa Rinna gave to LA Times, was that she's like, I want to take this to the Supreme Court to make an example out of you now, because you guys are trying to sue me for such an outrageous amount. And now I want to have these laws changed, because this is a hard cash grab. Like, you're asking for you're over $1 million. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
So the argument that I sort of brought up on my Instagram was, well, yes, the photographer is technically the owner of the photo, but shouldn't the person, the subject of the photo, shouldn't they also have some sort of rights to that photo in some way, shape, or form, being that they are the subject of it, their likeness and their image is being profited off of, and they're not necessarily giving permission or consent to have their image sold and released.
But they're in the public. And they're also a public figure. So the ability to make that argument declines drastically when you are that public figure. But I agree, they should. If you remember it's been a number of years back now, when Ellen was at an awards show, I don't know, the Oscars maybe, and she and a bunch of people in the front rows took a picture. Mm-hmm. And that question specifically became very prolific in society, because it was like, who owns that picture? Ellen was actually the person, I believe, to snap the photo. Yeah. So it was her picture. She's the one who took the photo. And I remember that kind of generated this similar conversation of who owns the rights then? Who can publish it? But again, it's just one of those, I think that we need to, because cameras are now so, everybody has one in their hand, It's not like it used to be. So I think the laws need to progress. But if the laws don't, and the laws have not at the time that this happened, Lisa Rinna still owes something.
Right. And I think she's expecting to pay that. I think she's just trying to make an example out of it. But it also goes into like a much murkier place of, like, you see how many people on TikTok or on Instagram stories are taking photos or videos of other people around them. Right. I've gotten more mindful of that, because, that's another issue, because technically if you're out in public and on the street, does that mean you're open to being photographed and having a video taken of you just as a private citizen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, right, people need to be aware of that. That's where you get the term Karen from, right? Is people who have been on even private property and just started recording people. I think it's brought a lot of awareness of issues that we have, but it's also something we probably should look at more, just to protect people who protect individual citizens and their right to privacy, giving somebody a right to privacy, even if they're in a public space.
Right. Right. I mean, and I think to some level that should even go to celebrities as well, because now you have like accounts like Demois where people are literally sending in all of these random photos of they're getting of celebrities just kind of walking out. And I know in some other countries it's been outlawed where you're not allowed to take photos of anybody without their permission or consent. And I think especially here in like America, you have like influencer culture now where, well, what is determined a celebrity? What is determined a public figure? You know, me who has a large platform, am I considered a public figure if I walk down the street and somebody wants to take a photo of me and use that however they will? And do I have rights to even sue that person for using my image and likeness without my permission? Would I still be considered a private citizen, or would I then be moved into the realm of public figure? You know, all of those lines are blurred at this point.
Well, and I would be lying if I didn't have the exact same thoughts.
Yeah.
When my TikTok started gaining traction, I went onto my Instagram, I went onto everything, and I privated stuff with my daughter, because it's like, who knows who's going to use what, when, where, how, right? If I go on live with my husband, I'm like, quiet, you don't be so boisterous. You know what I mean? All of that stuff you have to take into consideration. I don't think that you and I, well, you probably way more so than I think that we're obviously not Kourtney or Khloe Kardashian,
right?
But I think you and I still deserve some kind of right to privacy. But maybe that's a personal take. And I will say the age generally of the members of the Supreme Court, maybe they don't understand influencer culture as well as you and I do. So that may not change as quickly as we would want it to.
Yeah. And it's wild to see how, you know, and we're making the example of like a paparazzi and a celebrity, but it really does trickle down to a person with a camera phone and a regular citizen out in public. Because like, look at how many times we've turned people like similar to like Karens who we've filmed at, you know, at a Trader Joe's, and their face and their image and I've even seen people go so far as to dig into who that person is and find out where they live and really expose them on the internet. And that really is a private citizen. And, you know, at what point are they allowed to take legal action against that? Because now everybody films and takes photos of everything.
I mean, in real time, we're seeing that with Brian Laundrie's parents.
Yeah.
I mean, think what you want about them individually and what they've done or haven't done, but people are standing out front of their house because this individual story blew up to such a national level. They didn't, you know, promote themselves or anything, but now they are public figures. Right? They are plastered everywhere. Yeah. Their moves are being documented on Twitter and TikTok daily. So it's very interesting. Society has changed drastically in a very short period of time.
Yeah, and the laws have yet to catch up to that. So what is your take on Rinna versus Backgrid? Do you think so you said you think she's going to end up having to pay something? Yeah,
she'll end up settling. Well, if she wants to make an example of this, she won't settle it. So
do you think she could win?
It really comes down to that willful part. Did she knowingly, willfully take these copyrighted images and post them on her Instagram? I think that's going to be tough to prove. So I don't think you get 150,000 per image. I don't think that part, but some nominal amount, if you can show that they actually lost profits from this, maybe, you know, up to 10,000, but I don't know what the going rate is for photos like that. But if she wants to use this as some kind of precedent, then she doesn't settle. She takes it up to the Supreme Court and we see what they say. But in that case, because the statute provides that if she ends up losing, she could end up paying all of their attorney's fees. So if she takes it all the way to the Supreme Court and loses, and they've spent millions of dollars on attorney's fees, all of a sudden the 1.2 million that they're asking for isn't that much.
So is it even worth taking it to the Supreme Court?
I guess we'll see how much she wants to stand on her morals, you know?
The hard part too is like so many of the people in the Supreme Court. I mean, I even kind of look at this with like the Erika Jayne, Tom Girardi stuff too. Like you look at their lawyers and like, they're not even the most social media savvy. You know, you look at somebody like Ronald Richards who like barely knows how to use his Twitter account, and like, you know, it's
Oh, I feel like Ronald Richards knows how to
use his Twitter account, but he doesn't know how. He knows how to tweet, but he doesn't know how to do a lot of other things. But So it's funny though to see, but it was funny to watch him tweeting and then to watch her lawyers try to like prove a case in court that he's being biased against her and it's prejudice against her case, and how they tried to prove that without fully understanding the world of social media.
Yeah, it's that specific issue has been fascinating to me. I was, to be quite frank, truly shocked at like the lashing that Erika Jayne's lawyers got in that second opinion on trying to remove Ronald Richards. Because I think they made a good point, but
I don't think they were. I think they made a good point, but I think you and I understand social media differently. Whereas I don't think the judge fully understood the scope and the reach that Ronald Richards has in his, prejudice of the public. Because right now, all he's trying to do is get the court of public opinion to lay into her, and then he's using that to try and intimidate her to pay a $25 million settlement that he has yet to even prove she owes. Right. So. And it's crazy because I've talked to him recently and he's like, she owes the money. And I'm like, prove it. And he's like, I don't have to prove it. That's not my job. And I'm like, okay.
Didn't he file a complaint against her though?
Yes. He's an interesting one.
I'm interested to know what he thinks his job is then. And I'm like, no shade to Ronald Richards, but he has in some ways inserted himself as almost like this shadow figure to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting to see how that plays out.
No, it was funny. I saw a tweet from him the other day where the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion trailer was posted, and he's like, we just received the preview for the reunion. Andy Cohen, great questions. We're so excited to see you host this. And I'm just like, you sound like a fangirl now. And first of all, you didn't just receive the reunion. Like, the reunion trailer was released to everybody.
Was it released to you?
Was it released just to you? Somebody sent you a personal copy on a DVD.
That was part of his subpoena. He'd like early released all trailer reunion, all trailers of the reunion. Yeah.
No, he makes me laugh. He's a funny character. That's more than I take him as a lawyer. I take him as a funny pop culture caricature. But okay, so that's the Lisa Rinna case. You think that she likely may take it to the Supreme Court. We'll have to see how it all plays out. She may end up settling. I mean, I would love to see her make an example of it just because I don't like the way, and I get it, people feel very differently about celebrities and they feel like, oh, well, they're fair game. They're, they sign up for this. They know what they're doing. But at the same time, it's also just like, the term celebrity is becoming so much more broad. I mean, we have traditional celebrity, but in terms of like regular talent, like that whole world is becoming so much more and more broad that I think people do deserve rights. And not to say that the paparazzi, don't have rights themselves, but like evolve with the times. You know what I mean? Like Us Weekly's likely going to use an Instagram photo that a celebrity posted. And to be fair, like a celebrity should have that right, because taking a photo of them just walking down the street when they're looking disheveled, like that, I never really liked that sort of culture of celebrity with the paparazzi.
I will say this too, though. If you look at the Free Britney movement and the changes that were able to be made from that legislatively, not in the court system, but legislatively because of the public opinion, we would be looking at a different situation if Lisa Rinna had more of a public following, or if she was in better favor with the public, perhaps, or if this was done to a more sympathetic figure, in my opinion, because then you could possibly get a change in legislation. I don't think a lot of people are calling their Congress people right now and going, Lisa Rinna is being sued and we need justice for Rinna.
Right. No, they're like, nail her, burn her at the stake.
Make it easier.
Yeah, which is so crazy that we have that double standard where it depends on the person, whether or not we want to see them burned or not. Mm-hmm. And it's like, she's on a reality show. Like, her job, she's doing her job. She's entertaining the public and doing her job. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not her true full character and nature in real life, as she really behaves around her family and her friends, but she has to amp it up for the cameras. Otherwise, we would be complaining about what a boring season of Real Housewives.
That's what I think every time I see Kyle Richards, people saying that she's a pot stirrer. Yeah. I'm like,
that's her job.
What you tune in for the show for? But maybe, I guess I look at it more forest from the trees. Like, I feel like we watch this to watch the pot be stirred. if all we do is like watch people talk about each other behind each other's backs, and then like they're super friendly and we're all at home watching.
But it's also interesting how people don't like Kyle as a pot stirrer, but they're totally okay with Sutton stirring the pot. Like we pick and choose, or, you know, we don't like when Lisa Rinna's a little shady, but we like when Garcelle's a little shady. Like we pick and choose who we like to give a pass to. Whereas I'm always like, I'm a fan of the show. I'm a fan of the cast as a collective and the flavor that everybody brings to the formula.
It's a team. It's a team.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about Jay Edelson because he's recently filed a new motion so my understanding of it is he's trying to be released from the bankruptcy against Erika Girardi and or the bankruptcy within Girardi Keese because he wants to pursue litigation against Erika Girardi directly. Is that correct?
Yeah, he wants an order from the court clarifying the exemption that he can go after Erika Girardi individually because she's not a party to the bankruptcy. So not necessarily to be removed, as far as I can tell from this filing, not necessarily to be removed from the bankruptcy, but to pursue Erika outside of the bankruptcy for the money that she has received.
So is Jay Edelson, so he's representing the families on behalf of the victims of the Boeing plane crash that Tom represented. So isn't he part of the bankruptcy in the term he's one of the creditors that Girardi Keese owes settlement money to?
Correct.
And so is he trying to say, I don't want to wait in line here for the bankruptcy money, just give me permission to go after Erika for the money that my clients are entitled to directly?
As I read it, he's wanting, I think he's wanting both. He's wanting to be able to stand in line in the bankruptcy.
Got it.
But also probably an offset would be found in that bankruptcy if you were to actually get money from Erika in the other filing. But because Erika is not a party to either of these bankruptcies, she can be pursued as a third party for funds that she received, basically transfers of fraudulent funds to her.
Right, which were the expenses that Tom was paying on behalf of her and EJ Global.
Yes.
So then, because my interpretation and the way I presented it was it seems like he is trying to cut the line, so to speak, and get money for his clients. He didn't like that phrasing. He says, I'm not really trying to cut the line, but to an extent, he is, right?
Yeah, I mean, so here, the thing is he's in a line with everybody else to get money. And that line is part of the Ron Richards. Right. So Ron Richards this is such a like telephone game, but Ron Richards is litigation counsel for the trustee of the personal bankruptcy of Tom Girardi.
Or Girardi Keese. For
Girardi Keese. Thank you. His only role is to pursue funds from Erika.
Correct.
Okay. So you've got the bankruptcy of Girardi Keese. A trustee is representing that bankruptcy. That trustee hired Ronald Richards. Ronald Richards is now suing Erika. So what Edelson is trying to do is kind of back end into the Erika Girardi funds.
Right.
So he's saying, listen, I'll wait in line for whatever you guys get, but I also want to go directly to whoever owes them money. So yeah, in that manner, he is bypassing it, but still holding his place in case there's other money that comes in, because we know that there's other people that likely owe Girardi and Keese money.
Right. Which I can't say I dislike, only because he's representing the Boeing plane crash victims and the way we look at how the bankruptcy is pursuing their money. So if they get any money from Erika, Ron Richards is one of the first people to receive his 40%, and then the money goes into the bankruptcy, and then it gets divided against the people who have a secured loan or a secured credit interest, against Girardi Keese, which, as we know, it's looking like the banks and the lenders are the ones that are first in line there, because a lot of the former clients weren't able to get their settlements secured by a judge.
Right.
So it's Ron Richards, and then it's the banks and lenders, and then it would be any former clients. I think the ones that
the trustee gets paid,
and the trustee gets her percentage, and then it would then go towards, whoever is left over. I think the only client that actually has that went to the judge and got their settlement money secured was the Rui Gomez family, who's the family we saw in the Hulu documentary. So I actually don't hate that Jay Edelson is doing this. I don't know if I necessarily love him pursuing Erika directly, because it seems like a lot of the people, and I think Dana Wilkie mentioned this when she did that impromptu Instagram live with me last week. She even mentioned that like Erika doesn't have anything. So I don't understand why, if everyone's acknowledging that she doesn't have any of the money that Tom once gave her, because there's not $25 million sitting in her bank account. These were $25 million in expenses over the course of the last 12 years. So that money is gone and that money is spent. She no longer has any money coming from Girardi Keese. So my confusion is, why is everybody then now all trying to jump in line to sue her directly? I get it, we don't like her, but what is the benefit in pursuing her personally?
A couple theories. One, if people truly think that this is a sham divorce, I've heard
which
theories.
Which Edelson, I think, was the first person to claim that last year.
And there are theories that there's money offshore, or that there are accounts that have, these aren't even allegations, just like rumors that I've heard randomly. Then it might be a good idea to get a judgment against Erika in case any of that money ever does show up somewhere, right?
Okay.
Also, you could get future earnings if you get a judgment against her and she ends up owning a home, you can lien the home. There are ways to get future earnings, or other, if she sells that $1 million painting that no one knows where it is, and ends up putting that down, or they're otherwise able to acquire the funds from that. It's better to have a judgment against her so you can pursue that.
Got it. And she is still working. She has her housewife salary. She's likely going to end up writing another book. There are likely going to be royalties from that. Like, I think, I can see that there is going to be, if there's no money there currently, there is going to be money, because she has no other choice at this point. Like, what is she going to do? Go work at Walmart and live a low life? No, she's going to continue to live not a lavish life, but at least a public life, because that's her best bet in terms of having any sort of, life moving forward or income moving forward.
Correct.
So was there, in that motion or in that filing, was Edelson looking to also pursue anybody else outside of Erika Girardi?
Not that I could see. It's just Erika.
Okay, which is what I thought, because I'm also like, well, why aren't we pursuing any of the lawyers that also heavily were involved in Girardi Keese and also heavily benefited from this as well?
Yeah, I don't know how the structure was within Girardi and Keese. I don't know. It's my understanding he had some family members working there. Yeah. Some of them may have been disbarred if they're not in proceedings to be disbarred, meaning their law license is revoked. I don't know what they would have gotten out of this. And from what I can see, Girardi and Keese, maybe intentionally, didn't keep very good books, right? We saw somebody got a hold of the finances involved in the bankruptcy recently, and they were like, yeah, it's just a stack of papers.
Yeah.
There's stuff everywhere. So other than if they had like a QuickBooks or something that somebody could go in and be like, oh yeah, you got X, Y, and Z. I don't know. It might not be worth it. Yeah. If you've got a $25 million chunk, and that in Erika versus, $2 million scrambled a bunch, like 20 different people, it's way more efficient to just go after the one.
Right. That makes sense.
Especially with her earning potential.
That makes sense. Of all of the players on the table, she makes the most sense in terms of having money to pursue, having milk to take from the cow.
I don't think Tom Girardi's heirs are going to have much in the way of money in the future either. So they're probably not going to
pursue that,
be on the other end of a lawsuit anytime soon, at least in this manner.
It is interesting though. Like, let's play into the theory that maybe there are offshore accounts that Erika may have access to, or even that Tom may have access to. How would we be able to even find the accounts, find the money? Like, I feel like offshore accounts are so, like, how do you even pursue
Isn't that
something
what
like that.
the Pandora Papers just came out and talked all about that. I think that's where you have to hire Sutton's financial team to figure it all out and see if there's any minor league baseball teams that maybe Erika owns. I mean, that you're talking about such a high level of wealth where people know strategically how to transfer money. I think in some respects, you watch movies where this kind of thing happens and it feels unrealistic, but I think in a lot of respects, it's actually very realistic. So you need to hire really, really smart people to do that.
The only reason I'm hesitant about the offshore, I'm sure there maybe are a couple of offshore accounts, but the only reason I'm hesitant towards believing that theory is because they were such big spenders. They spent a lot of money, Erika and Tom. And when you talk to people that worked for them or that were close to them, they would even say, oh, Tom Girardi spared no expense. He would take the whole team out to eat and he would have these lavish parties. He would, fly Erika. And you look at how much money he spent on that vanity project of her music career. Like, that is just money circling the drain for no real reason. And then you look at how many high interest loans Tom was taking out and how much money he was having to owe people that I don't believe, I believe the funds were running out and not that they're being hidden.
Right. I agree with you.
I think the offshore theory is a nice theory. It's fun to think of these elites that have all these offshore accounts and they're crooked, evil people. But I don't think he was that smart with his money. I don't think
in this situation
specifically. I'm sure in other situations it's different. Shakira is going to shake her hips elsewhere, but in this specific instance, I think Tom was not a very smart financial person, and he clearly didn't have any serious bookkeeping or accounting team that was running all of this. And I think you're right. A lot of the paperwork was to bury whatever it was that he was doing. And you look at, he had his ex-wife who ended up testifying in court against him in their divorce settlement, that she's he abuses the discovery process and floods people with all this random paperwork. These are tactics that he uses to kind of just hide and conceal what he's actually doing.
Interesting. I didn't see that, but yeah, that makes complete sense. He's a personal injury lawyer. He's not a business attorney.
Right.
And those are very different things. He doesn't, that's why when he's doing all of these LLCs and stuff for Erika and starting all of these companies and running them, I highly doubt that all of that was done completely, above board, I's dotted, T's crossed, because that's not what he knew to do.
Right.
That's not his expertise.
And EJ Global wasn't the only company he was shuffling money through. He had several other companies that he had an aviation company, he had a financial company. He didn't even know how to do finances, yet he had his own, Girardi Financial
investment company.
Which I've heard that theory as well, that there were investment companies because him and a lot of his big high profile friends were loaning money to each other and they were kind of shuffling some of their money back. And that's why he was taking out so many of these high interest loans, that some of the other lawyers, not at Girardi Keese, but some of those other high profile attorneys were all kind of just shuffling their money back and forth, loaning it to each other. And that's a possible theory as to why he was taking out so many high interest loans was, it was just to help move the money around and pay it back and forth.
That could make sense if you just need to take out a loan instead of paying 6% to a bank. If you have an interest in the company, you could just pay the 6% to the company, charge it to the client theoretically.
Yeah.
And now you're double banking. I think that is horrendous to do as a personal injury attorney.
Yeah.
I would never charge that to my client. And I think that's a huge conflict of interest, but I guess theoretically it would be a smart business move. Just not ethical.
Right? Very unethical, but still smart. It's weird because you're that's technically smart, but that's very...
Yeah, something can be good business-wise and completely horrendous on the ethics.
Yeah.
I don't think
then that also goes into all of the clients that he was saying, hey, let me help invest your money. And then you look at, and I look at how he was writing off, these expenses for EJ Global as loans. To me, that made me think, well, are these part of the investments that he was getting these clients to sign over, being like, hey, I have a business opportunity that you can invest in. And they were essentially investing in the Erika Jayne music career. And he was using that money and got them to sign off on that, saying that there would be an ROI at some point. And we know that that music career never had a real ROI.
If not directly, indirectly, absolutely. That's what my gut is telling me, for sure. Which is sad, because if they knew what they were investing in, they probably wouldn't have chosen that specific investment.
It would be different if he was a business attorney and he was just doing this to business owners, maybe high profile business owners. I wouldn't feel as bad. The type of clientele that he was representing is what makes it so much worse.
Right. And that's the Housewife and the Hustler touched on this, that, these types of attorneys, personal injury attorneys in general, are helping the little guy.
Yeah.
I see a lot of them riding high on lots of money because they end up helping the little guy get a lot of money, and they in turn have a pretty sizable income. But that's what makes it so egregious, is that you market yourself as helping, Joe Smith down the street who, got really hurt and can't work for the rest of his life. Yeah. And now your wife's, receiving $1 million painting on national television, wearing Louboutins at her private studio in LA.
And that's what makes me so skeptical about people like Ronald Richards and Jay Edelson. I want to believe that they're fighting for the victims, but I'm like, Tom Girardi told us he was fighting for the victims, and he was bamboozling all of us, So it really, breaks my heart to question them. But at the same time, it's like, how do you not question them knowing how shady people are?
Yeah, trust no one. But really, in my experience, the more people talk about how trustworthy they are, thou doth protest too much,
Yeah, the more you tweet and the more you call me and ask me to have you on my show so that you can prove that you're actually fighting for the victims, that's where I'm a little more skeptical.
And I will say, he deserves his fee. He deserves his fee.
Yes.
He's pursuing Erika. He deserves his fee. I think the fee is a little bit high, but maybe that's standard in a bankruptcy proceeding because the risk is higher.
Yeah.
So the fee should be higher. But yeah, the thing that I have a hard time with is, and I think he may have stopped, but he was tagging Erika, I think.
Oh, he still does.
Does he?
He tags all the cast.
Which?
Sutton and Lisa Rinna and Garcelle and...
But if you're suing her, I feel like that may be unethical since you're not tagging her attorney. It's not a good...
I think that was part of the argument that her legal team tried to make, is he's tagging her in tweets and, tweeting...
Improper...
Yeah. And
ex-party communications.
And then he just recently got himself involved in the... she talked about a government case that she was involved in on...
Yes.
Yeah. And when I spoke with him on the phone, I was like, now this is looking like you're really biased and prejudiced against her, now that you're involving yourself in cases that have nothing to do with the bankruptcy that you are, hired to work on. Now you're just pursuing other lawsuits and boasting about getting her or possibly getting her removed from that case as a witness. That to me is going way beyond the scope of what your priority should be if you're still involved in the bankruptcy. Yeah.
And I think he and I have different styles and techniques and practice just generally. But yeah, it's hard too, because in that situation, I would want to be taken very seriously by the court as somebody who's really seeking to protect the victims and get money for them. And so discussions I'll represent you, Lisa Vanderpump and Camille Grammer and anybody else wrongfully edited by Bravo. It's hard because it's if you're doing that in your spare time, and this is a contingency fee case, which means I'm not paying you hourly, I'm paying you by what you get. If we don't get anything, is it because we spent too much time reviewing Bravo's editing floor footage. You know what I mean?
Which he doesn't have access to. That was another media circus trick. He never subpoenaed that. Jay Edelson.
Oh, he didn't subpoena it.
No, he sent a letter to Bravo and Evolution Media saying, "Hey, in the event that I need in the event that I need this footage, preserve it." Jay Edelson, as of I believe last week or possibly the week before, actually subpoenaed Evolution for the unaired Real Houses of Beverly Hills footage. So Jay Edelson took the step to actually get the footage. Ron Richards, I don't think, has any need for the footage, to be honest, because he's been very clear that anything she says on the show can't necessarily be used against her unless it's something that she says under oath in the court of law.
Okay, I have not seen him say that, but yeah,
he said it to me directly, and I've also heard him say it. He said it on Juicy Scoop, and I believe he's also said it on one of the million Up and Adam exclusives that he's done. I love Adam, and I have to clarify, I love Adam, but the number of exclusives, this man...
It's weekly.
It's weekly. It's bi-weekly. Trust me. And people are like, oh, well, you're jealous of Adam because Ron's giving him the exclusive. I want to be clear. Ron has offered me many exclusives. I have turned them all down. There is no jealousy. Let Adam get his paycheck.
Yeah, and everybody involved is, I mean, if everybody's just trying to get the victims paid and you're bringing awareness to it, and Adam is, and Ronald Richards is fighting the good fight, I mean, peace be with them all, and I wish everybody luck.
Yes.
It's going to be that is an uphill battle.
Yeah, and it's not going to be over anytime soon.
So I have a question for you then, because I'm hearing rumblings that they're going to start filming here.
I believe they start filming this week.
Oh, really? Kathy Hilton said something about after the reunion, and she hasn't been asked back yet. But do you think Erika Jayne will sign back on?
Oh, they all got their offer letters last week.
Did they?
They all just got their offer letters, so they've all been asked back. And there are a couple of new names that are being considered right now. I don't think they're being considered for a full-time spot, but I'm pretty sure they're just... But they do this every season. Like, they interview people, and they film people, and they follow people to see if and when they may be brought into the series. Like Crystal Minkoff, before she even signed on to do the show, had been pursued for a good minute before they even brought her onto this season's cast. So they often, interview other women and try to see if and when it may be an organic fit. Sometimes they're friends of. Very rarely do they get a full upgrade.
Understood. I see it's hard not to see the parallel between the Real Housewives of Salt Lake and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And so you see, I had heard rumblings that season 2 was filmed, she gets arrested, and they're scheduling season 3 to be filmed while she is on trial.
Yeah.
And so I had to assume that Bravo, if they're smart enough to do that in one, they're going to do that in the next. But it'll be interesting to see. Do you think Erika will sign on?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she needs the money. She needs the money, and she needs the control of the narrative. So I think she's absolutely going to stay on. And I think Bravo's in a better position to keep Erika than they would be to keep Jen Shah. Like, if they're going to cut anybody for, like, the moral, ethical, whatever, Jen Shah's been criminally charged and arrested by the feds.
Which is so interesting, because the court of public opinion that I can see is so the opposite.
Yeah.
Everybody is like, the people that don't like Erika, either they're way louder, or
they're way
maybe
louder.
Beverly Hills is just a bigger franchise, but
they're way louder. And I'll tell you why they're way louder, because then they would be in the position that I'm in. And I'm not defending Erika, or I don't try to. I know sometimes it may sound like I'm defending her. I'm defending the facts as I see them in front of me. I'm defending, what
neutrality.
I'm seeing.
You're defending neutrality.
Exactly. That's what I'm defending. And until, listen, when the feds come and arrest Erika Girardi and they have all the receipts against her, then I'll be the first one to say, yes, lock her up. However, none of that has actually happened. So I'm in defense of the truth as it's being presented, or, real time. Yeah, like you said, neutrality. But with Erika Girardi, they're keeping her because Andy Cohen's been very clear about, she hasn't been charged with anything. So her side of the story is all we have to really believe. And so we're going to continue following this story because we have no reason not to, because this person isn't a criminal. I mean, and Teresa Giudice was able to keep her job. Obviously, it was a very different set of circumstances with the Giudices. Jen Shah, though, I think if they're going to fire anybody based off of that principle, it should be Jen Shah because she has been arrested by the feds. She has people that are working, to testify against her. There's a years-long investigation that's gone into her. So that's a little bit of a different circumstance, but you don't see the outrage and the outcry for Jen Shah.
That's what's crazy to me.
And I think from talking to people privately, a lot of them they understand my position and have that same position, but they don't say it publicly because then they would get the backlash that I get and the drags that I get in the comments because it's like, oh, you're defending Erika. Oh, are you on her payroll? And it's like, yes, at this point, I'm on Erika's payroll. She pays me $500,000 every month. I have a crush on Ronald Richards. I'm jealous of Adam. It's all true. Everything.
You have me. I have nothing, but you have me. And Rosé.
All day, babe.
I will say, people need to remember too, if the complaint that's been filed against Erika by Ron Richards is a civil complaint. In criminal, we always know, right? Reasonable, beyond a reasonable doubt is right. So it's a much heavier scale. In civil, it's a preponderance of the evidence. So all he has to do is tip the scale ever so slightly in his favor.
Yeah.
It's like 51% to 49% that people would believe him over her attorneys. So, or that the judge or jury would. So even if she gets found civilly liable in the complaint he's filed, the burden is so much lower. Yeah. That's the legal system, man. But I guess the legal system really doesn't matter to the court of public opinion. It's completely different.
No, otherwise people would be standing out there with signs that say free Rinna.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much, Heather, for chatting with me today. What is your social handle so that people can give you a follow?
Heather the Lawyer. Don't expect much. I'm mostly on TikTok and answer questions about legal stuff. But yeah, that's it.
I love it. Well, thank you, Heather. You're a great lawyer. And
thanks.
I love your TikToks. Everyone should go and give you a follow on TikTok. But you're on Twitter too, right? And are you on?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter a little bit and Instagram. But I do personal stuff mostly on Instagram.
You should upload your TikToks as reels on Instagram.
Here's why I haven't. Because the TikTok world, other than the people who have found me from contacts in their phone, is largely people I do not know.
Yeah. And so Instagram
it's the people who know me on Instagram, so I've been kind of hesitant. My husband kept running into people in real life, taking my daughter to swim practice. And they were like, "Oh my God, your wife's on TikTok." I'm like, "No, people know."
I love it.
It's different.
Yeah. I love it. Everyone needs to go and follow Heather the Lawyer. She has really good hot takes beyond just the Girardis. There's also Britney stuff and other hot pop culture tea that she spills, or hot pop culture legal tea that she spills. You guys can give me a follow at Just Plain Zack. I believe that's my TikTok name as well. And you can follow the show at No Filter with Zack. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us a comment. Let me know, did you hate me this week or do you love me this week? And please show Heather some love in the comments as well. And be sure to
no hate for me.
No hate for Heather. Get some of my Housewives-inspired rosé, 14% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar at nofilterwine.com. And yeah, slide into my DMs, boys, because I am single and ready to mingle for cuffing season. Let's get it. All right, guys. Love you. Mean it. Talk to you this Thursday, Instagram Live at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And yeah, let's have a good weekend and let's get Litty City. We're going to be watching Halloween Kills this weekend starring Kyle Richards. Are you ready? I am. All right, guys. Love you. Mean it. Bye.